source is Hillsdale College Imprimis. This article on critical race theory, you can find it on the internet. I will post it on my Facebook page. But we all have to get educated as to what's going on. This is an insidious process, and it's at your front door. Thank you all.
On the recognitions for the presentations, there is none tonight, right?
None tonight.
Okay. And we move on to the consent agenda, the financial report. Janelle.
Okay, the cash ending for the month was $6,072,392.65 for June. Our expenditures for the month, $3,391,577.69. Payroll, $952,001.87. Transfers, $1,741,479.77. The warrants, $698,096.05. Checks that were over 10,000. RCEC, $176,263. Sped flow through. Pretty Prairie, we paid $10,388 on the Blue Ball salary split. Shep Chevrolet, $15,300, a Chevy Equinox. Ben E. Keith, food service, and $10,630.60. 5-Star Mechanical, $16,600, Haven Grade School Library. Great Plains Motorsport, $11,918, a mower. Landmark Architects, $15,971.20, fees for the auditorium.
Did you say Pretty Prairie was 10,386 or 88?
86.
I thought I heard 88.
Did I say 88?
I think so.
Well, it's 86.
Just asking.
Well, we're both crazy.
It's probably me.
Any other questions, comments? And principal director report, written reports are in your drive. Does anybody have any questions or comments for them that are here?
I had a question about food. So are we going to be able to get enough food next year? Like, is that a concern?
It is a concern. Right now, I had bid out 3 companies, SGC, Benny Keith, and a local smaller company. I can't remember who they were right off the top of my head. But it's a concern across the nation. It's not just for us. SGC has chosen 12 districts, all on our side of the state, unfortunately, to not deliver food to anymore. We've been using them for a year. They came to us seeking our business a year ago. They bid on the contract. They got half the contract along with Benny Keith. I contacted Benny Keith right away after I spoke with SGC and said, what are you guys doing? And they guaranteed, verbally of course, that they would continue to service the schools. Across the nation, U.S. schools or U.S. Foods has decided there are several states where they will not be servicing schools anymore. So I think this is only the beginning. I believe that we're going to see more shortages. They cited the reason for that, employees. They don't have enough employees to run the warehouse, and they don't have enough space due to the nature of schools and how schools buy. So I think it's going to get worse before it's going to get better, and we'll work with what we have.
Is there anything you need from the board, like with extra storage to buy extra food in the beginning work, like maybe some non-perishables or something like that?
Not right now. Not right now. School food service does have money in its account. If we were to need additional storage, we could purchase a unit or something. Right now, we're just gonna, run with Benny Keith, and the state does have a waiver that we can apply for to allow us to go off without having to bid and do a formal procurement to another company if we can't get what we need from Benny Keith. So we do have that advantage, and it's definitely an advantage right now. So I've been around a long time. I know how to play these games. So we're pretty prepared.
Thank you very much.
But you're still planning on using like local grown stuff? What you can?
Definitely.
Good.
Definitely. Yes, local beef. We'll get as much local produce as we possibly can while it's still in the growing phase, but yeah.
Any other questions? Okay. Clark, Superintendent report.
Yeah, first of all, you guys may have remember several years ago, Randy Watson did a tour of the state. There is another one coming up. I'd ask you to add that to your calendar, August 30 in Hutchinson, 9 a.m. to 10:30, right during the middle of most of your work days. But if you would be interested in attending that, please let me know, because I'll want to share a number. August 30, 9 a.m. to 10:30. It'll be in Hutchinson. Exact location yet to be determined. So we'll be inviting, of course, you guys as board members, administrators, maybe even some community members that may want to go. But Randy Watt's going to be doing a tour of the state again. Project updates, you probably saw some in Chris's report about the auditorium and some out at Yoder. Concrete was being poured out at Yoder today. The brick has been cleaned, some windows have been replaced. It just makes me a little nervous that school doesn't seem to be that far away, and we have a lot of things to get done in a short amount of time. So we're hoping that happens. I was at the auditorium today. Electrical work is progressing nicely. A lot of painting has been done, but some is still to be done. They were hanging sound panels today, but once again, good progress, but still a ways to go. Lastly, I would share, you saw in Chris's report, we're waiting on the flooring company to show up to do some of our selected locations, but a lot of the painting in those rooms is progressing quite nicely, so it's always nice to have a few rooms each year that gets updated, and we can continue that process. Household economic survey. I don't know if you've heard that term, but you might, I think Cherie had it in her board, and I know she posted on, we posted on Facebook today about free meals. Students will once again receive free meals through federal funding. That's a wonderful thing, and yet there's some challenges with that. One of our concerns is the number of people that might sign up for free and reduced meals. I would remind you, our at-risk funding is based on free and reduced signups. And so the state has come out with this term, Household Economic Survey. It's a simple document to fill out. Ultimately, it does ask for family income. So anytime you do that, you may or may not get that filled out. So we are promoting that. We've got it in all of our enrollment packets and things like that. But I just share the concern with that, and it's good that we're streaming this so we can get this message out. That's important, that household economic survey, because that'll make a difference how much funds we bring in from the at-risk side of things. So, and if you're wondering, at-risk budget was about $600,000 last year, that's a chunk of money for a district our size. So, just wanted to share that the challenge. The beauty of free meals and the challenge of still getting folks to sign up. Lastly, and I've shared this with you, it's not that I'm making a big deal of it. Starting Thursday, I'll be on vacation for about a week, and I do take my cell phone and always available. I'll see what the service is like out in the middle of the ocean, but I'm willing to take your phone calls or your text messages, but looks like Thursday to Thursday I'll be out and about. That's all I have.
meeting are in your drive. Assume everybody's read those and any need for corrections. Resignations, I believe there's 2. Is that right? Katie Elgin, assistant volleyball coach, and Debbie Madison, HGS secretary.
Yeah, I just might mention that to you. You guys know we've been struggling filling our volleyball positions. We were excited because we had 3 applicants and 3 openings. In the meantime, we got another resignation, so we're still 1 short. Probably worth noting, Debbie Madison, longtime grade school secretary, has resigned that position, and we wish her the best. I'm not sure what she's going to do, but good for her. Hope she gets to do exactly what she wants to.
Okay. And then we'll go through the alphabet. Yes.
Yeah, I won't go through all of those. Many of you that have been on the board know that it is our organizational meeting time, so many of those are similar to maybe what you saw a year ago if you were on the board. Be happy to answer any questions, but that's a typical July board meeting that a lot of people are doing, is identifying people. Sometimes it's administrators, sometimes it's district office staff, but we are required to identify people to fill those roles. Obviously, P is what Bill brought up, so we'll remove that one as part of the initial consent agenda approval. Let me see if there's anything else to cover there for you guys. You see membership with KSB and legal assistance, SDAC membership, attorney renewal. You notice it says John Caton. I don't know how many of you guys know John Caton, but he is going to retire at some point through the year, so there will be a new board, still the same company, but a new board attorney at that point. Questions I can answer about those?
I had one. Have we always had a deputy clerk and treasurer?
I will say this, yet we have always had, what was it we added last year? It was the deputy treasurer we added last year, but yes, we've always had a deputy clerk. Requirement of the school board meeting is to have a clerk.
Right.
I'm not even required to be here, but she is. So if she, for some reason, couldn't make it, we have to identify who would fill in for her spot.
I just didn't remember that.
And we talked earlier in the year about potentially some extra training for our hearing officer. Has that gone anywhere, or have we considered that? Have we asked her if she would be willing to do something like that?
Really, the conversation that I've had with her is the training through KSB.
Okay, and have we got that set up?
They don't do it on a regular basis, but she has been through it before, so it's, yeah, the question is, do you do it every year would be the question mark. And John, I would share, most of that is procedural type things, when KSB does the training.
Okay. Yeah, and if you would be willing, that mediation training is excellent, and it's really, really eye-opening. I took it several years ago, and made me a nicer person, believe it or not. But you know, if you're willing to, I'm willing to support trying to get Clark to pay for it. So I don't know, the others would agree, but it really is excellent. But it is a tough course. It's a week long, and it's all day, every day, and so. But I think it would be very helpful in the event that we do ever have a hearing. And then I had one other question. What happens if we don't pay our KASB dues?
We're not a member. That means, yeah, obviously any of their sessions we would attend, price is a little higher. Obviously, we wouldn't have them to call from a legal standpoint either.
Is that, you know, $1,000 a month is, you know, 5 hours with a lawyer. Do we hours talking to,
With our own attorney?
yeah,
No.
so, I mean, like, do we?
That's KSAB you do that,
Yeah, with
probably.
KSB.
Oh, yeah, oh, yeah, I thought you
Yeah,
meant
sorry.
our local attorney, but, I'm on, the phone or email with them on a regular basis.
Okay, any more questions or discussion of these items? So I guess I'd look for a motion to approve the consent agenda with the exception of P. Dustin, second. Ken, all those in favor, right hand, 7-0. And I'm going to recuse myself as you discuss item P, and
Sure.
Jessica will take over.
Item P is establish bank depositories for district funds. And it looks like we have, exhibit 1. I didn't look at that. Is that in here?
It is.
Oh, it is. Oh, wait.
Bank depository.
Several of them, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not labeled as an exhibit, it's just in that drive with those.
Ew.
So Bill, in case you're wondering, Bill is a part-time employee for First National Bank, and that is our identified bank that we're proposing to keep our account with.
And we've used them for long as I can remember. So, are there any questions or concerns with you continuing to use First National?
With the exception of the school out of Yoder, and our money is in
Peoples.
there.
But we don't need to establish that one.
Yeah, it's on the list.
Oh,
So
well,
you're-
I don't know why I can't find the list.
All of them
It's
are.
What is-
titled Bank Depository 2122.
Why am I? Anybody else
Is it in a
struggling?
folder inside of it?
Yeah, it's in the folder that's titled, excuse me.
Oh.
Organizational
I gotcha.
items, exhibits, and then there's one titled Bank
There you
Depository.
go.
So, yeah,
Sorry, I was not prepared.
It was there yesterday, I saw it.
Okay. So, First National Bank for here and People's Bank and Trusted for the order accounts.
And I'll make the motion.
Okay, Dustin and Ken, all in favor, say aye, or, sorry, right hand, all opposed, same. And the motion carries 6, okay, yeah, you're in favor?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think so.
Okay, 6-1, actually, 'cause I think we did. Okay.
Okay, all right, moving right along. Action items, number 7, executive session for negotiations. How long? do we need?
10 minutes, you think? 15?
15 probably.
Okay. I'll make the motion. I move the board recess to executive session to discuss issues related to the teacher's contract and the exception of employee-employer negotiations under KOMA. The meeting shall resume at, 15 minutes. That's like right in the middle, 6:43? How about
Just wanna
that?
make it 6:45 is
Six,
round.
all right,
Easy to
6:45.
keep
And to include the board and Clark Weedle.
And I need to, we'll find out later, I have a first to fail before by belief. Alright?
You see where- Goodness.
Shuffle your feet, lose your seat.
All right, we're back in open session, and we'll move to the next item, consideration of classified staff and step scale. Clark.
Yeah, I just handed you out a document that would show what our new, we're calling it a step scale, because if you remember, our board kind of asked us to look into creating a scale for our what I call classified hourly employees, that would give them an automatic step as they got years of experience. So that's what we've done there. In the meantime, we also raised those starting salaries up as well. You know, this is always a tough hire, especially nowadays, and probably everybody in this room understands that many salaries have increased, and it's hard to hire people right now. So we like the steps we're making here. Obviously, would somebody say it's probably never enough, but I've got a proposal there that would increase salaries for our classified pay scale. Some of you guys are wondering, we haven't settled with our teachers, so we call those certified salaries. So this is just for our hourly employees. So I'm gonna ask the board to consider approving this new step scale for them. It will increase salaries from a range from anywhere from 1% to 7% based on years of experience. And really what it does as far as steps, it gives an automatic 20 cents raise for the first three years and 40 cents for the fourth. So it's $1 over 4 years, and once you get to 25, it just kind of maxes you out there, but you get 20 cents each year then. So, questions from the school board?
Yeah, any questions? Did I have a motion to adopt this new classified pay scale? Ken, second. Paula? All those in favor? 7-0.
The beauty of it is that their contracts a lot of times start over on July 1, so we can go ahead and pay them their increased rate starting with their first paycheck in July. Later this week, hopefully.
All right, back to school plan.
Yeah, I shared that with you. I'm gonna go ahead and put a little light on some of you guys here in the back, but I think that'll be all right. I would say this is really our first look at this. We have been asked by State Department of Education to have some sort of return plan. If you remember, we had all of us districts had extensive plans for last school years related to COVID. And so now we're creating I would say a much smaller version of what a back to school plan will look like. So I'll just take a little bit of time, but once again, our ultimate goal is to get this in front of people, certainly a school board, certainly our community, and by the way, it is posted on our website under back to school plan, currently has been for a couple of weeks now. But I'll just start with maybe the hottest topic of all, that's wearing a mask. Really, as you can see, it has the same language as we went to back in April. Face coverings are recommended, with final decision being made by families and employees, just being respectful of others. I won't spend all the time going through here. We'll try to social distance every chance we get. We've still got our signs on the floors and on the walls that tries to keep that spacing in place. Hand washing will still be a priority. We'll still teach it. We'll we'll still have signs in our bathrooms encouraging that. And then you can see some of the cleaning and maintaining of facilities. Many of those things were things that put into place, they're really not bad ideas, whether we're in a COVID era or not. And so a lot of those things we believe we can leave in place. I would say one that gets a little touchy is we continue to work with the county health department. And from what I understand, there will still be a quarantine guideline. Typically schools don't quarantine, the health department does. We have been helpful with them in doing some contact tracing, but we still expect, and if you remember the two things that kept you from quarantining, it was wearing a mask and it was being vaccinated. And so those, we don't mandate either one of those. So that'll be a personal choice, but certainly could make a difference as to whether a student or an employee was to get quarantined. And as you can see, we just simply said this can be affected by face coverings, vaccinations, and testing. Testing will still be made available through the health department in Reno County. Certainly the same way with vaccines, they seem to be readily available. We're really not making a strong statement one way or the other on it. As you guys know, we have made them available to all of our employees on a couple of occasions. Everybody's had that opportunity, and they still have the opportunity. Not all employees got them, and that was their choice. Just a couple other items that are maybe not so much COVID related down there under Part 2. As you know, we're an MTSS school, we'll continue down that process. Really, Part 2A just talks how you're meeting the academic needs of your students. And obviously, we're still gonna do the best job we possibly can to meet those needs of our students. Several items listed there. And you guys approved payment to Pretty Prairie for Beth Blueball tonight, and that's our mental health liaison. So we listed that we'll still offer that program to our students through Horizons. Questions? I went through it quickly, but as you can see, it's much shorter than we've had in the past. I would say probably for the next month, we'll sit on it and see what kind of feedback we get. Same way with you guys. You can encourage your folks that you listen to share their feedback with you guys. Obviously in August, we should bring it as our back to school plan.
So you still have to meet once a week with the county, see how many numbers there are and all that?
We're on call right now. We're not meeting once a week anymore.
Well, we don't have gating criteria anymore, right?
That's correct. Something going wrong here.
Oh, your computer, They've got to answer our
Yeah, the gating criteria really not in place currently.
Okay.
So, really, what our conversations with Reno County Health Department is keep us informed. We do get their weekly situation reports with numbers. Obviously, there's been a little increase in numbers, not too bad in Reno County that I can see, but obviously if something would occur where there was a bunch of numbers again, that would require probably a Reno County Superintendent and Health Department meeting, and it would come back to you guys at that point.
Gotcha.
If we were gonna change procedures.
And one thing I do think that you guys need to be aware of is that they have changed the naming convention for the China virus. Originally they were talking about the European variant and the African variant and the Indian variants, because these are all just regional mutations. None of them are killing more people. In fact, they're less deadly. But it made people less scared and they weren't able to meet their vaccination numbers. So they said, well, hey, what if we make it sound like a progression? So then they started naming them alpha, beta, and And the one we're on now, the Delta, is just the Indian variant. So don't be scared of the China virus because, you know, this new strain is not as deadly. And probably the only reason we're seeing it more is because they've changed the number of cycles that they're testing for again to make it more scary. So.
Okay,
Yep.
so we'll talk about it next month then. On to item number 4, approval of contracts and work agreements. Got a couple.
Yeah, so you see that there at the end, we talked a little bit about volleyball coaches, so there's 3 hires there, assistant wrestling. And this is where, oh, you're going to have to exit again. We'll call you back. So you see the last name on there is Lauren Powell, and that's Chris's wife. And my job is to inform you that we are offering a contract to a board member's spouse. Not our first time ever doing that, but it's a conflict of interest for him. So there, and then the 2 work agreements are both pairs, one at the grade school, one at the preschool. We've had those openings for a while. Those are replacements.
So do we have a motion to approve the contracts and work agreements? Justin? Second? Paul? All those in favor? 6-0. Okay, and now Chris, come back.
He's coming this way, he was done.
We didn't leave for good.
Green the wall, short attention span.
All right, on to item number 5, board policy updates, second reading.
Okay, we'll start with the KSB policies, and these were shared with you last month. I did went in, sometimes I know you don't always bring them back to next month, but I went ahead and put a whole bunch of them in your drive, and it's a considerable amount to scan through. Did you guys come up with any questions, anything further you would want me to cover on those?
So, let's move on to action for a motion to approve the new policy updates as presented last month and again this month. Is there a motion? Paul, is there a second? Jessica? All those in favor? Right hand, 7-0. Okay. And item number 6, no. What is this? What would, no, 5A, I guess,
That's exact. And if anybody wants a copy of the proposal, it's right here. So, what is critical theory? Critical theory is a Marxist socialist theory oriented towards critiquing and changing society as a whole. Critical theory emerged out of Marxist tradition and it was developed by a group of sociologists at the University of Frankfurt in Germany who refer to themselves as the Frankfurt School. Current critical theory has spun off into several new disciplines, including intersectional feminism or third wave feminism, critical race theory, critical gender theory, critical queer theory, as well as critical media theory and critical media studies. So when we're talking about critical theory, we're talking about all those, including the race component as well. Critical theory at its core assumes certain people are born privileged based on characteristics. Born white and male, and you are automatically racist and sexist, and there's nothing you can do to change this. Even worse, if you're born brown or black or female, or identify as any gender other than male, or are trans, then you are born oppressed, and no matter how hard you work, and no matter how successful you are in life, you are still oppressed. And your success may actually be because you hate your own group. That's where you see like people like Candace Owens being called a black white supremacist, because her success is because she hates her own group. At least that's the narrative that is put out by some. Critical theory also blames you individually for everything evil done to your assigned group, as long as your group is currently considered a privileged group. They teach that white people today are responsible for slavery that occurred before they were born and must pay for it even if they never owned slaves. But if your group is not considered an oppressed group, then you get a pass. This is why our vice president is not deemed to be responsible for her family owning slaves. But I am responsible for slavery, even though I've never owned a slave. Nobody in my family that I know of has ever owned a slave. As far as I know, and I'm a good bit Irish, so it's even possible that my ancestors were slaves. That doesn't matter. All that matters is that I'm white, so I'm responsible and I'm a racist. Is critical theory coming to Haven? Well, I think you saw by the email today, if you read the email from one of our teachers today, that it's already here. But in order to not inform the public of their plans to indoctrinate our students, and I'm talking about the Haven deal, I'm talking about in general, so on the state and national level, they changed the language and defined new words so nobody knows really what they're talking about. So these are some of the buzzwords that you should be listening for, because if you hear these words, a lot of times they're talking about critical theory. Action 6, social emotional learning. And I cut this down from a much larger list, but diversity, equity, and inclusion. Those are the ones that you'll hear most often. Anti-racism, anti-bias, anti-blackness, collective guilt, critical ethnic studies, critical self-awareness, diversity training, dominant disclosures, equity, educational justice, implicit or explicit bias, institutional bias, internalized racism, microaggressions, oppressor versus oppressed, patriarchy, racial healing, racial identity, racial justice, racial prejudice, racial supremacy, restorative justice, social justice, structural bias or structural inequality or racism, systematic racism, unconscious bias, privileged, white social capital, white supremacy, whiteness, or the newest that I've only seen in the last week or so is teaching real history. This came up at the NEA meeting. So until last week they were saying, oh hey, this is just academic, you don't have to ban it because it's not in the schools and it's illegal anyway. Well, the National Education Association has changed their tune on that, and they are saying that yes, we are teaching this in the schools, and we will fight to put it in the schools to teach children that they are oppressed. Our attorney Luke in his email said to me that there's nothing, and I think all of you guys got a copy of that email as well, that there's nothing objectionable to what's being proposed here. But what he did say was that his problems seem to be with the fact that people are wanting to indoctrinate our kids, and teachers might find it offensive that they are not able to teach this garbage. Or they might have to alter the training to avoid saying all white people are racist or all men are sexist, etc. He wrote in his email today, or in his email, if he wrote it today, he might say we're attempting to ban the teaching of real history. So, but here's the deal: 5 states have already banned this. What I sent you today is this came to me. Blue Valley School District has had this in their school district since 2019. So they are working to get a diversity coordinator in every single school, including the elementary schools, to teach this garbage, and they're teaching it now. So the fact that he says, well, hey, it's not going to happen in Haven because it's illegal, well, it's happening in Kansas. So, and I need to emphasize that Luke did not say there was anything legally wrong with this proposal. He objected it on moral grounds, but we pay him for legal advice, not moral counsel. And as most of you know, the Kansas Association of School Boards is extremely far left. At least all of my interactions with them, they've always taken the extreme left position on anything, including SB 40 and masks. All right, so when I originally proposed this, I honestly didn't think it would be controversial at all. I gave it to Clark, and he asked me to change some things, and then all of a sudden it was controversial. But the reason I proposed it was two reasons. First, the law, or the state that I based it off of, Oklahoma, I thought it was very well written, because it doesn't mention critical theory anywhere in the documents. It just bans things like saying, hey, you're Japanese, so you were responsible for Pearl Harbor, even though it happened before you were born. Or hey, you're white, so you were responsible for slavery, even though it happened before you were born. Or you're a man, so you're automatically sexist, and you know, and you're, I mean, so the things that we're teaching, I don't think in Haven, America, should be controversial. But apparently they are. So if there's anything specific with this policy that you guys have a problem with, I think we really need to talk about it, because, you know, there's 8 points in here under teacher training, say, you know, basically we can't force teachers to attend training that says, hey, you're biased, or you're racist, or you're responsible things. And I don't think any of these are personally controversial in Haven. And we also are banning teaching our children these things as well. So one of the things that came up was advocacy groups and training. And I think you all got a list of links of things of proposed training in Yoder. And my first impression was that these were coming to Haven, but maybe they're not. But this is why the next agenda item, training, I'd like to do that. But so this is what is being, or at least this group, and this is all from one group, from what I understand. Understanding this is what they're wanting to bring to our elementary students. Understanding that allyship can provide for LGBTQ students. Awareness of the prevalence of anti-LGBTQ language and behavior. Willingness to advocate for LGBT students. And this is in elementary school. LGBTQ visibility and integration in elementary schools was one of the trainings that they wanted to offer. They talk about putting specifically into elementary and middle schools. And the safe space kit. The more it's all indoctrination. It's teaching our kids when they're youngest and they're most vulnerable that hey, this is a good thing. And I'm sorry, that's garbage, and it doesn't belong in Kansas. You know, we need to be tolerant of each other, but we don't need to be advocating for this. And we certainly don't need to be bringing it up to first graders. Based on the fact that we are even considering this type of garbage training and making it mandatory, I think the board should require the administrators to notify us ahead of time what trainings and assemblies they are planning for parents and students. Blue Valley does that. That was the second handout I gave you all. They actually provide that to their board. Hey, this is what training we're offering this year. So, you know, other school districts are offering it. And, you know, we need to keep things open so that way parents can see what's out there, the board can see what's out there, teachers can see what's out there, because there are teachers that are afraid to speak up. I spoke to at least one teacher and one administrator who were afraid to say anything, and they spoke to me off the record saying, yeah, I feel like this is probably coming to Haven, and I'm afraid to speak out against it. So, you know, sunlight is a great disinfectant. Critical theory is in Kansas. Critical theory is in our public schools, and I want to keep it out of Haven. And so that's what I'm proposing here. Like I said, I don't think anything in this proposal is objectionable, unless you're pushing an agenda and trying to teach this stuff. Now, if we make it policy, then it carries the force of law. If we make it guidance, then we may as well not even vote for it. So, so I will entertain any questions, and if not, then I'll make a motion to adopt this.
Any questions for John?
I think I have some thoughts. Personally, I think, John, I think your ideas, everyone I think should have the opportunity to share. I think, I would assume, I'm making assumptions here, that most people on this board are not for critical race theory. But I personally was not pleased with how this has been handled. We had one meeting which you said your document did not include critical race theory, was titled Banning Critical Race Theory, which I think leads people to believe that we're throwing around very controversial terms. One of my primary concerns with passing this without doing some due diligence and taking the advice of everyone here at our table was that, precisely what happened. That information was given to Senator Stephan, that I received a text message that said, is it true that Haven USD 312 is trying to implement critical race theory? Whatever was communicated from whoever to Senator Stephan that was then said on the radio led a couple people in my life to assume that we were implementing critical race theory. And on top of that, I feel like you drug our district through the mud. I feel like you drug Mr. Weedle through the mud. I believe that what was said on the radio, based on the responses I heard, truthfully, was a lie. And I'm okay with entertaining that, but when we are so quick to make this open to everyone, now we're the focal point of something that apparently is going to be discussed in January at a state level that's going to be handled there. And when we make things to this extreme level where either if I have any questions about what we're talking about, all of a sudden it must be because I have an agenda. The same could be said for you, that you have a political agenda, and you may have that opinion of other people on the board. I easily could have that opinion of you. And so, you know, we have some work to do, and I'm personally not in favor of critical race theory. I'm also of the belief that, you know, who teaches my children? I teach my children. I raise my children to say that may be right for so-and-so, but that's not the way that we are going to live our lives. I understand that it can be bigger than that. But I just wanted to say that I'm new to this, I will admit that, but I wasn't pleased with accusations. It seemed as if accusations were pretty quickly flying around. And again, I think it was unfair to all of us. It went against the idea that we are here to make decisions as a group, and for whatever reason, maybe you felt like that was your only option. The way we went about it, I'm fighting against I'm fighting against the idea of being more against it than I originally was, based on how we're trying to shove it through. It doesn't matter to me that these people are here. I will stand behind the convictions and the questions, and I will take as much time as I feel like I need to do the very best that I need to do for Haven USD 312, for all three of my kids that are in this district. It doesn't matter what side of what politics wants me to do what. And so I guess I just wanted to state those things before we move forward with the conversation.
So, well, I would have a couple questions here, because I didn't do any radio interviews, so
No, Senator Stephan did.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And
and the emails that I copied Senator Stephan and several others on, I told Luke right at the beginning of the email, hey, I'm copying several people on this email. So,
and I have no problem with the email, absolutely not. No problem there. And I'm not accusing you. I said whoever passed along that information. So I don't want you to think that I'm accusing you, because I'm absolutely not. Because I don't know that piece of information.
But I did decline several radio interviews.
Okay.
And so,
okay.
But I mean, the public needs to be informed. If this is coming to Haven, the public needs to know, so that way they can give their input. We should not be doing this in secret if we are doing it. And all I'm proposing here is that we don't bring it to Haven.
Okay.
So that's it. I mean, and I made it as unobjectionable as possible. Like I said, I mean, I really can't think of any reason why anybody would be against any of these unless you're trying to push any of these ideas on children. I mean, like, I really can't. Like, what are you against in this proposal? I mean, is there anything that you find objectionable? You had a month to look at it.
Sure.
I mean, is there anything at all that you find objectionable?
That I personally find objectionable? No. What I stated is my concern is that we're going to be drug into something unnecessarily. And some of the questions I had after looking at it, would critical race theory be included in this document? Some of my other concerns are, as a board, as a district, how do we enforce it? If something is mentioned and a student goes home and has questions, you know, again, just how would we enforce that? And I think those are just questions that we need to think through before we just say, let's do this. And again, I'm not for it. But you know, I guess some of us maybe move a little slower than that. Yeah, that's where I'm at.
Paul, you have any?
No, I pretty well echo what he's saying. I didn't appreciate how it was handled. I haven't received any emails from you, John. None, zero.
Well, I can't communicate.
And then here it comes, you, Dr. Stefan, you bring it in, and then you wanna push it on to us. I don't appreciate anything the way this has been handled. In politics, there's no place in USD 312.
Yeah, Paul, you do understand that we can't email each other about stuff. I mean, that's why.
Politics don't need to be here either. I really feel strong about that. Kids need to be taught at home. What we do is in USD 312, we give them education, but right and wrong and this kind of stuff needs to be handled at home.
Exactly, which is why I want to keep it out of our schools. So, I mean, are we willing to let it in our school because have hurt feelings? I mean, okay.
But the way, I haven't ever even heard about critical race theory until, a couple months ago when you brought it up.
I agree. The only reason it's reared its ugly head here is because
You brought it
of
up.
what you've done.
And I don't appreciate it.
That's
Well, now,
why
you all got the email from the teacher today. We've got a diversity and inclusion task force here in Haven. That is critical race theory. That is here in Haven right now. That was here before I brought this forward. I heard the language being used, and that's why I brought this forward. And last year, my kid was being taught critical gender theory here in Haven. So it's here. So, I mean, if you guys don't want to vote for it because you got hurt feelings, because you feel like it, then it's only the students that are going to get hurt. And that, in my book, is unacceptable, that you would take a stand to hurt our students because you got hurt feelings. I'm sorry. That is unacceptable to me.
At all.
I mean, if there's nothing you disagree about with this, then we need to make it more policy. If you do disagree with it, then we can have that conversation. But this garbage does not belong in Haven. And it's here.
Jessica?
I mean, you're a really eloquent speaker. I'm glad you said what you said because it came out of your mouth better than I could formulate stuff on the spot. Thank you for sharing those. I saw some emails and I actually heard from another board member, hey, did you know our names were being thrown around saying we don't support this? And I'm like, what? I don't appreciate that. I don't disagree with what you're trying to propose. I told you that. And I also feel very, PC word, offended that you would say those things, John. That's not what happened.
I'm not sure what I said, because actually you were the one of the ones that I cited as mentioning, hey, we need to keep this out of Haven.
And I've heard both sides, so I don't know what has happened and what is not. But regardless, I feel like this is a dog and pony show over something that was a pretty small issue that we had very little time. We had one reading of a policy you wrote. Normally we get policies from an example that someone else has adopted, and I didn't feel comfortable adopting this policy that I saw for, I have other things to do, and I try to devote as much time to this as I can, but we all have lives, and to study critical race theory isn't my only job. And so for me to adopt something the night that or the day, I usually try to prepare several days in advance, the couple of days that I had to think about this, and now we're on this national spotlight apparently, county and state of, oh, hey, let's see what Haven does, see if they screwed up first. I'm sorry, but I totally agree with what you're trying to do, John, but I don't like it's how it's been handled, and I'm still not sure that I feel comfortable adopting something that I don't know what the full implication is. I'd kind of like to see somebody else screw it up before we do it. And I don't know that we're really doing anything right now to harm our kids. This is my personal belief that I don't think we're really trying to harm anybody right now in any way. And if I'm wrong, please tell me. But I don't know that it's something we have to decide tonight. And I'm prepared to or open to other suggestions, but we've never even adopted a policy, to my knowledge, and made it board policy that was just something we came up with. I've been on this for, I don't even know how many years, too many years to remember. And maybe you have, Bill, I don't know.
We've never done anything like this in this manner. It's, I agree with all the statements that have been said. It was kind of being brought up as a problem that nobody was aware of. And maybe congrats to you for at least bringing it to our attention, that at this point in time, making it an actual written policy, let somebody else go down that slope first. Don't really like being pulled through the mud, so to speak, as far as all this publicity that went out and kind of round the back corner somehow, whoever, whatever did it.
Well, hey, I mean,
Well, I'm not saying you did, I just say
I declined a lot of interviews.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, some of it happened, and how it happened, we don't know, but it did happen, it was obvious. We got, some of us got texts and emails and stuff that, like, whoa, I didn't even know what, we were talking about that, so. Kind of went out of turn, but go ahead, Ken, you hadn't had a chance to speak yet.
Thank you, Chris, for sharing. I appreciate what you shared, and I can echo a lot what you said. One is, I do not support this critical race. But when you said that there was emails sent out, I didn't receive one email. Then all of a sudden here today, I spent half the day chasing down things because people were getting hold of me trying to figure out what's going on, and I'm going, what is going on? Well, it actually started yesterday afternoon when somebody caught me at a funeral. I go, what? And so I'm just, when you're saying you're sending emails out and things are going and we're not even in the loop.
No, I'm sorry, the emails were between Luke and I, the attorney, and I did ask Clark to send me a copy. He sent a copy of the email Luke sent. He did not send a copy of the email I sent to all of you because of Cohen. So, but I mean, I asked Clark to send you guys an email of what Luke and I talked about.
But there's been a lot of other things that have been discussed and we have not been in the loop. And that's where I feel we as a board need to work together. We can have disagreements, we can have different opinions, that's good. That's what a board needs, is different opinions to where we all come together as one. But right now, we're not one. I mean, it's just 1 against 6, basically, is what's happening right now, and we're sort of.
Well, and it wasn't, I mean, cause last month when I brought it up, I mean, I thought I made it clear, but I mean, and I'm okay with tabling it for another month if you guys need to think about it, cause it was not my intention to catch anybody off guard, or, like I said, I turned down several interviews, with different media outlets, because I didn't feel like that was appropriate. So, you guys are attributing a lot of things to me that, you know, this is the first time I've heard about them. So, I mean, I didn't know, I don't listen to radio. I didn't know radio interviews were being done or things of that nature. I do know I feel strongly about keeping this nonsense out of our school and making sure it stays out. And that's my only agenda. I've got a kid in the school. And I don't want him coming to me and saying, hey, Dad, one of my teacher was teaching me that all men are oppressors. I mean, I don't want that being taught to my kid. I want to avoid that being taught to my kid. And so that's why I'm being proactive and saying, hey, this is something that we need to look at. And like I said, if there's anything in that policy that anybody has any questions about or disagrees with, you know, I mean, it's not it's not a all or nothing deal. You know, we can take some time to look at it, because that was never my intention to throw this onto anybody. Like, this is a complete shock to me that a lot of what's being said tonight, because, you know, I purposely went out of my way not to. You know, I talked to the friends that I knew, and like I said, even my emails with Luke, I told Luke, hey, this email chain is being copied to other people, including state legislators. So, I was transparent throughout this whole process. I mean, I can't email you guys on stuff like this because of the Kansas Open Meetings Act. I can't, but I asked Clark to share everything he could with you guys on this. So, you know, I mean, if we need to take some more time, I'm fine with that, because I want you guys to have a chance to look at it and review it. But, I mean, if it's because you got hurt feelings or you're mad at me or something, you know, that's no reason to put our children, or throw our children under the bus and not take a stand against this.
I specifically have, I'm not trying to call you out, John, but, well, one person specifically told me, you told them to pass this along.
Oh, yeah, no, I did tell my friends to say, hey, we've got this going on tonight, and this is what we're doing in Haven,
Right.
and, you know, let your board member know how you feel about it one way or the other.
And I just want to be really clear, I don't disagree with your proposed policy. Do you understand that?
Yeah, but is that a bad thing to do if you, like, when you were fighting for Summit, did you?
No, I'm just saying, it sounded kind of like you were kind of denying that you spread this or whatever.
Oh, no.
Okay.
I copied people on Luke's email,
Okay.
and I told them ahead of time that I was.
I just want to be clear, because I don't disagree with your policy at all, and you keep asking us if we disagree, and I don't think anyone here does.
Yeah, I don't know, because all I'm hearing is, you know, hey, this was done the wrong way, but so we're gonna allow this in Haven if it comes here.
I don't think we want that.
And I think it goes back to, I think, conversation we could have, John, and, you know, I'm new here, and, you know, I think there's a place that we can all meet. I truly believe that, and I want that to be the case. But I think we can answer some of those questions. How do we enforce it? What happens if we have this policy? And maybe this is a lot of my ignorance. I will openly admit there's a lot that I don't know. What happens if someone accuses someone? If it's a teacher versus a student, a family versus a teacher? You know, I just think that I think we still have enough time to try to get a few more ducks in a row before we just make a rash decision because, you know, of whatever reason that may be. And if I again did my best to stick to what I knew to be factual, and I will openly and publicly apologize if I came across.
Oh no, discussion's good.
Yeah, absolutely.
My feelings.
Okay. You know, you know, those are some of the questions that I have. Again, I'm maybe still pretty new as to how to bring those up in a way that we can all dialogue and communicate about those things. If we could come to some answers about those things, you know, and then if we do this for critical race theory, what policy comes next, or what idea comes next, or just what are we opening ourselves up to beyond this idea in the future by setting this standard now. And you know, again, I just think some conversation about those things would be healthy and would be good. And if we can talk to those things, I mean, I'll say that, you know, I would be happy to you know, to continue having that conversation, see how everybody feels, and you know, potentially once those questions are answered, even be for it and vote for it. But you know, I don't want to rush into it, and you know, again, the precedence of us doing it apart from the state on our own, there's some questions there.
John, I'm wondering, what would happen if we would have a motion to make for memorandum of understanding that we don't teach critical race theory, but if we need a policy at a later date that we can be crafted through the proper, going through the proper channels, which is having a, you know, open discussion here. If we want to do something like that, what would you be opposed to doing something like that for tonight to make sure that the school board and then start working on this? Would you be comfortable with something like that?
I think so. Say it a different way though, because I'm not sure I understood it fully.
Right now, instead of making it a policy, go with a memorandum of understanding that we are not gonna be teaching this. But as time goes on, that way it gives the teacher something to go on, that we're not teaching it, but then it gives us time to have more discussion, more interaction, trying to figure out how we wanna craft it, to where we don't get into legal trouble.
Yeah, I'm 100% fine with that. And as far as like, you know, this is the place to have these discussions, because this is the only place we can all talk. And, you know, board, or clerk, what happens if a teacher breaks board policy? I mean, how do we deal with that?
Individually, one at a time. Supervisor calls them in. You know, I've sat here and listened to it, I appreciate it, but one of my questions is defining it. Because I can assure you, when I hear the term diversity and inclusion council is critical race theory, you said that.
Yeah, I mean, those are critical race theory buzzwords.
And so I think we're gonna have a really difficult time defining critical race theory within our district.
Right,
Right at this table.
Right, which is why I worded things the way I did in the policy, because they, you know, I don't wanna ban the idea of critical race theory.
Yours is one opinion. I can assure you, the email you got from our teacher today is, your two opinions are gonna be as far apart as anything can be.
Yeah, and I did send her an email back saying, hey, here, this is a copy of the policy I'm proposing, maybe we're talking about the same thing, maybe we're not. Can you get back to me, is any of this the stuff you're talking about? And she didn't get back to me. So
I think that's a
maybe she didn't have
huge
time.
challenge for us to identify what we're talking about here.
Right, which is why I put it in writing. You know, if there's something in there that we don't need to have, or that will cause us problems, then we need to change it. You know, like I said, I tried to make this as uncontroversial as possible.
I don't know that that's possible.
Oh, it's not, but I mean, you know, like, I didn't use general terms, I used very specific terms.
Yeah.
And I was very specific about what,
I'd also go to this, and we have a senator in our room, but if I understand right, these other states that adopted it, it started at the legislative level. And it hadn't started at the school level. That makes me a little nervous to start it at the school level, to tell you the truth.
well, I mean, we're the closest to our voters. You know, so, you know, in my opinion, like Kansas was the only state in the United States that left masks up to the county. Kansas loves local representation. Kansas wants the local representatives to make the decisions because we're the closest to the voters. You know, we know the people that are in our district. You know, the people in Topeka or in Washington, they don't know the people in their district. You know, they might know a few, but, you know, we know the people in our district because this is where we live, this is where we work, this is where we cause trouble. And so, no, I mean, I've got no problem with.
It still didn't happen that way in Oklahoma and Arkansas.
Yeah. So, but we're not Oklahoma or Arkansas, we're Ada. So, I mean, yes, I have no problem continuing this discussion and crafting a better policy. So I got no qualms at all with what you said.
Will you second my motion?
Yes.
Okay.
I think we got a pretty much good consensus of everybody's, you know, opposed to the theory that maybe the policy is a little
Yeah,
questionable.
and like I said, my goal was not to, you know, when we proposed it last month, I titled it that way, so I was hoping you guys would take a look at it better.
Sure.
And any way possible, I got you guys this stuff, you know, I asked Clark, hey, can we share this, hey, can we share this, and so, and Clark shared everything I asked him to share that he was able to share. So, you know, I didn't mean for this, like I said, I declined a lot of interviews, and I'll probably be declining a lot more interviews, this next month, but, you know, now if, you know, I mean, cause I don't want the news media to decide, I want the voters to decide.
And another thing, but in a policy that puts a name on it, they're gonna change the name, they're gonna call it something else, and just to get around it, so. Kinda like Ken's idea, cause I think we have a consensus for that, so. Was that an official motion, Ken?
I'll make
Okay.
that.
Did you, Janelle, you get that, what it was?
What is the actual motion?
What the actual-
Motion to have a memorandum of understanding that we will not teach critical race theory. And that we will go through the proper channels to go and draft up a policy then, if that is required.
Okay,
And I guess how would we define critical race theory? Is it the things that are not real, or how would, because the definitions are the definitions are the same thing.
but that's the same thing with the policy, that's the problem, it's, they keep changing what they're gonna call it.
Right, which is why I didn't call it that.
Yeah.
I mean, which is why I said, hey, we can't teach a kid they're oppressed. We can't teach a kid they're responsible for slavery.
But a lot of that, we already have covered in our policies that, no
Can I
racism
just-
and
if
all that
this
stuff.
like did become a problem, I know you say it's already going on, I disagree. Just, I'm not hearing it from people, but if it happened next month, then all of a sudden we're hearing a bunch of stuff about this teacher's teaching critical race theory. At that time, we can come together as a board and say, they need to stop teaching critical race theory. Is that something we can do? Because I don't really, like, I'm against it as well. I don't really understand what a memorandum of understanding, or, like, I don't even know what that does. But, like, if we all voted on that and passed that,
I guess it just kinda
what
gives an
does that-
indication of where the board stands as far as, I mean, there's probably not a lot of teeth in it, but I mean, it's,
Yeah.
at least it's a guidance, maybe.
So what does that do for you if we pass that right now? And
Well, you bring the question up. Let's say somebody's teaching something. I could say that's not critical race theory. In my opinion, John would say it was critical race theory. Ken and you guys we might have 5 different opinions. Were we teaching critical race theory or not? I think that's our biggest challenge is we can say we don't want to teach critical race theory. Now we got to identify it.
Which I think it's a bit of a catch-22 because, John, you did do your work to make sure it was identified at least, more to these certain things. But it still got out that we're talking about critical race theory. And I know one of my hopes was that we could have that established because, as you said, we want to send a message, and I disagree that message, maybe needs to be loud, but that when the time comes, we had something that we could say, hey, we did this at this time against these ideas. Because some of those ideas, I mean, they stretch to what a member of the KKK or a white supremacist might in some way teach a person. And again, being able to kind of decipher between those two things, because again, your very specific policy turned into critical race theory, just as we say, well, critical race theory, what does that mean? And if we're not careful, we will go in circles a bit.
Right, but I mean, we can't, but like the things that I listed are not vague.
Yeah.
And so, is a teacher teaching a kid they're privileged because of their race? Yeah, that's not vague. Is a kid teaching somebody that they're responsible for something that somebody did before they were born because of their skin color or because of their gender identity? That's not vague. Because yes, we do not need to be vague, because if we're vague, then we've got all these things that are open to interpretation. We need to be specific. But yeah, no, Ken, I like your point though that if teachers or if teachers, parents, or students bring it to our attention, then we can deal with it until we do have time to draft a good policy.
Well, that's where I'm coming at, because to hurry and go draft a policy right now that 6 of us really haven't been involved with, I think is really lopsided. So if we have just, okay, we're not gonna be teaching it, but then let's start working at trying to craft something that will cover what critical race theory is.
with no guarantees that we're ultimately gonna draft a policy, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm not gonna go
Yeah.
in favor of that.
No, but we can at least get something to where we're not gonna be teaching.
Maybe by then we'd get guidance from the state,
Yeah.
if it's gonna be a item in January, so. All right, well, I guess we did have a motion, so is there a second to Ken's motion? John, okay, all those in favor, raise your right hand. 7-0. Okay. On to something a little more controversial, budget?
Nice segue.
Just kidding.
That one's mine. It's got my notes on it.
Sir?
There's more.
All right, I gave you two items. One is just kind of some information about how the budget ended up for the fiscal year 2021. And so you see the document titled Cash Summary Report. Your first thing that might come to your attention is federal and a negative number. If you remember, a bunch of federal dollars came our way this year, and not all of it has been distributed to us. And so that's why that is a negative number. Even our auditor said you probably don't have any choice but to have a negative number. Typically, we don't give you these with negative numbers, but we haven't got the funds all able to be spent yet for federal. So that's about to be fixed. I had mentioned to you earlier the free and reduced current concerns, and so as we ended this year, we tried to pad our at-risk budget a little bit, so you see a ending balance of $267,000. Capital outlay was one that you guys were a part of this year several times as we approved auditorium renovation and things like that. We probably spent a little more money than we had intended to, so I wanted you to see that that's back to a healthy balance. We were able to move some money back into there at the end of the year. Special education is another one with a healthy balance. We always have to kind of start the following school year prior to us getting state funding, so we have to make our first payment to special ed prior to that, so we usually pad that at the end of the year. Contingency reserve was one. If you look at that, kind of the second number showed what we spent $150,000 out of contingency reserve, and you guys approved those expenditures. And so, that's a revenue. We were able to put $150,000 back into there because we did spend some out of there. So still over $1 million in contingency reserve, and that's, I don't know if that's everybody's goal, but one of my goals is to keep a nice cash balance in there. On the back, you see student material. You probably saw in Kara's report that we plan to adopt some language arts curriculum next year. I can also say this with tongue in cheek, I hope it doesn't have any critical race theory in it. But that's going to be a big dollar amount. I'll just give you a heads up well in advance that we're going to need some dollars, because that's the K-12 curriculum across the board. Language arts involves several components. And lastly, and I brought up bond and interest, because that's going to relate to the next document, our revenue neutral rate with Reno County. Bond and interest, you see $1 million in there, but I would remind you, we do have to pay, we have to kind of fund 18 months worth of payments on our bond project. So for the next 6 months, we're going to make a principal and interest payment, and so we have to fund accordingly to where from 1 year we have to make sure we can fund the next fall and the following year. So I wanted you to see cash balances to start off with. It's good news. It says we have a healthy line of dollars for our district. You guys have been frugal in your spending, and yet you've been updating projects as needed, and that's greatly appreciated. This district has grown a great deal in facilities in the last several years. The second document, and if you're I don't know how many of you looked at it, but one of the documents in your drive was just information on revenue neutral. And I hope you had a little time to look at that. We'll touch on it as we go through this document. So if you remember, the county or the state adopted a new procedure that's all about being more transparent with potential tax increases and tax dollars. And so one of the things the legislature come up with is this revenue neutral process. And so we're in that process now, and tonight we have to make a decision what our mill rates are going to be going into next year. And we have the deadline of July 20th to let the Reno County treasurer know what that will be, Reno County clerk. So the first column is revenue neutral by county. So they were required to report to us what it would require for us to stay revenue neutral. And they issue that in mill rates. Now you might see something right off the bat. General fund 16.73. If you're at all familiar with the general fund, you know the state is going to assess 20 mills. So whether we like it or not, we're already going to tell the county that we're not going to be revenue neutral because they're going to assess 20 mills. And so this was based off of a valuation. Clear at the bottom, you see what happened to Reno County valuation. A considerable increase. Probably has to do with the price of houses, buying a vehicle. Jessica in real estate business understands this. Houses are selling like crazy. Doesn't really matter the price you put on it, you're gonna get a nice price for it. Everything is increased. And so that's a considerable jump for Reno County. It's actually Reno County and a little bit of Harvey and a little bit of Sedgwick, because that's our school district. So then you see supplemental general was reported 1379, capital outlay at 5.065, and bond and interest is 9.049. Second column is what we adopted last year. So there's that 20 mills of general fund. There's 16.6 in LOB. If you remember, we reduced our capital outlay down to 6.1, and that worked out just fine. And then bond and interest was at 10.899. And so that's quite a difference. So you see counties reporting 44.6, and last year we were at 53.6. I would say generally, if I had to, I don't want to speak for you guys, generally, we have tried to keep our mill rate fairly steady. So to keep our mill rate fairly steady means taxes are going to go up because of that evaluation going up. So I went to column number 3 then and put a proposed max. So number 1, by the 20th, we have to report to Reno County what our maximum mill rate will be for each of those bonds, or each of those funds, general, supplemental general, capital A, bond and interest. So those are proposals I came up with, and if you look at our total, that would make our overall mill rate just slightly lower. Do I believe it can be less than that? I do. That's why I put column number 3. Obviously, general fund does have to be 20. By the way, I say current budget, because we have been working on our budget. We've got a long ways. We haven't taken the KSDE to be checked over and approved yet, but we're pretty close to done and having it ready. So when you create this budget and you come up with your general, then the supplemental general is based on, for our district, 31% of general. And that's where the 15.39 comes in for supplemental general. I left capital outlay at 6.1. You guys might want to weigh in on that and say, could we reduce that again? Laura looks at me and says, oh, that means less money in capital outlay. Maybe. What you don't know exactly is what the assessed valuation is going to do to those dollars. So it could go down a little bit and still raise the same amount of funds. Lastly, and I brought that up earlier, is the bond and interest. You see 10.968. I have already asked KSDE to check what we call our Code 62, our bond and interest. We must collect enough money to make principal and interest payments for the next 18 months. And so what I'm gonna say is that 10.968 has to pretty much stay there. We have to be able to make that payment. We can reduce capital outlay, we can't reduce general. And so what you can see, over there on that right-hand column, I've even got it down almost a mil there to 52.397. I'm taking a breath, so you guys can ask a question if you would like. Ultimately, we have to, by the 20th, just a few days, we have to report to the county clerk what our revenue neutral rate is proposed to be. And these are maximum numbers. Once we report them, we can't go any higher than that. Can go lower. Like we did last year, if you remember, when we had our budget hearing, at the hearing, you guys said to me, can you lower it a little bit? And we went to capital outlay and lowered it to make sure it was a lower mill rate overall.
So the bond and interest, if I did the math right, that 10.968 is about an 11% increase over, in real dollars over what we collected last year. Did our bond and interest payments go up 11% or?
Not that much, but it did go up a little bit. So what I do is I took it and sent it to one of the KSDE finance directors and said, am I collecting enough money for 18 months? And this is the bill we came up with.
Sometimes we don't collect all it's supposed to be. Not everybody pays their taxes on time.
Sorry. I know, 21% of my house payment goes to taxes, so that's a lot.
Maybe before we approve the final budget, we can kind of look at your list for capital outlay project for the next year.
Oh, that means I have to have a list ready to go. Yeah.
I mean, so then we kind of have an idea.
I can't imagine we're gonna spend what we did this year. but
Yeah, that's
who
what I'm
knows?
saying, there might be a
Yeah,
chance to.
it might be
lower
a
your-
chance to reduce.
Yeah, right, but I mean,
Yeah, I'm looking at, what I propose there is that third column.
Well, it's a maximum that we can spend. The taxpayers are still gonna have to pay that much.
yeah, but we can come back and.
Only if we approve it at our budget hearing.
Yeah, the budget hearing, we can say we can, instead of 6.1, we can drop it to 5.9 or whatever. But we can't go to 6.3.
Right.
But what you have proposed is lower than what it was
This year.
Just barely.
By mill rate, but not by
Yeah.
dollar amount. By dollar amount, it's about an 11% increase.
Well, I know that they're saying that the valuation went up.
So we should collect more tax dollars, in theory.
But the only place we can really adjust it's the capital outlay, because the 20 is kind of fixed and the bond and interest is fixed. And the supplemental general is based on the general, right?
And the only thing I'll say about supplemental general, we're sitting at 31% right now. There is a part in the budget, you can say, no, we don't want it all. We've never done that. And John said it earlier, inflation is real, and it is not going away anytime soon. So I'm just a little concerned to go reduce our mills, and all of a sudden we may have to go back up. Yeah. Ideally, we'd keep it fairly even from one year to the next.
Keeping it even is an 11% increase in property tax for our residents.
Depending on the property.
Yeah, well, on average,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, those are the numbers.
Yeah. So, but we need a motion tonight for the maximum numbers and then.
Yeah, if I'm proposing the third column, if you want something different already, then we can adjust that. Yeah. That's what I propose tonight, 53.3.
I would like to see us keep at least the supplemental and the capital outlay at the same dollar amount as we had last year. The general fund, I don't think there's anything we can do about that because they're taking that anyway. And then the bond and interest for required by law to have that much, right?
We're not required by law, we just have to make our payments. We'll have a year's worth of payment and another 6 months worth of principal and interest payments.
Why did it go up? I thought the bond, or the interest wasn't fixed. Interest on the bond, why would it be going up?
Well,
Then we have like some of them roll off and then and then as those rolled off, then the new one comes in and it's a little bit higher.
we get an amortization schedule, and it varies a little bit, but it has increased the last couple of years.
I think when the bond was passed, the initial big $11 million or whatever it was a lower rate until the most current bond got paid, right? If I remember right. And then so those probably rolled off and now it's coming back up a little bit. So in other words, it kind of tried to so we didn't have a big payment the first 3 or 4 years and then drop down. It made it more even for the term of the new bond.
Some of you guys were board members, some of you weren't, but a few years ago, we had a close call with bond and interest. It was one of my first or second year where we barely had enough to make our payment. So it's something pretty keenly aware of now.
So my thought is we need to, especially with everything we spent last year, and with all the federal money we've got coming in, I think we should keep the supplemental general and the capital outlay the same dollar amount as they were last year, and not do an 11% increase on our citizens.
So you're talking,
So 20 for the general, 13.79 for the supplemental, 5.065 for the capital outlay, and then the 10.968 for the bond and interest. So a little bit off the fourth column and a little bit off the first column.
And that wasn't what we had last year, right?
Yeah, this is if we go off the first column, that would be the dollar amount we spent last year. Because in order to spend the same amount, okay, so
because of valuations take that time.
So if I'm being taxed on 100,000 at 10%, that's $10,000. If I'm being taxed at 200,000 at 5%, that's still $10,000. And so this first column keeps the money we're collecting the same.
Okay, why is there a 2021 adopted?
Because that was what the mill rates were last year, but because prices went up, to get those same dollars, the first column is what the mill rate would have to be this
Okay,
year.
I think I misunderstood those two columns.
You're saying your supplemental general is what, 13 point what?
7.9,
He's going off the first
the
column.
first column on the middle too.
Oh, just using their rates.
Yeah,
But it still wouldn't be revenue neutral because those other two have to be higher than what
Right.
the county's saying.
Because the state's gonna take that 20 anyway, so we don't need to send it to Blue Valley.
So what do you need to do? You need to know the maximum bill. The 53.3 is what you like.
Yeah, that's what I had proposed. That's different what John is saying.
I didn't add that up. What's your total in on your mill levy, John?
Yeah. I didn't know I was gonna have to do math. Yeah, 49.823 if I did the math right. Which is still about a 6% increase, but it's a lot better than 11.
If I'm understanding you right, Clark, if we go up here proposed, that gives you time to go and say, okay, we can get it down to what John is, am I correct?
Yeah, my proposed would just be a initial maximum
Okay.
that could be adjusted at the budget hearing and approved. We're really not approving any mill rates tonight. We're just determining what we're sending to the county as maximums.
I'll make a motion, this is the 53.3 for a maximum.
Second.
Okay, motion by Paul, second by Dustin. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed? 6-1. Consider special board meeting, board retreat on August 3rd, and budget hearing for September 13th.
Okay, we have done this in the past, that's why I brought it up. I think we talked about this a while back, and we talked about potential board training. And I know at that time, the conversation was to put it off until January, so that's certainly an option here as well. I guess what I'm asking is, do we want to try to have what we've done in what I call board retreat? We've typically done, looked at the back to school plan, we've looked at our board governance document, done some training with that. We didn't have KASB come in before, but that's typically, in the past, we've done that where we've had 2 meetings in August. Now, I might remember, August, the second Monday in August, 10th, I guess that would be, will not be our budget hearing this year. So, with the new revenue neutral rate, we can't have the hearing until at least August 20th. And so the hearing will not be until the September board meeting. So in September, we'll have a budget hearing, revenue neutral rate hearing, and our regular board meeting all at the same time. Should be a nice short meeting. Maybe. So I guess the question I'm asking is, do you still want to stay with that board retreat that first Monday in August? Or do we want to stick to kind of what we talked about before and put it off until January when we might have new board members? Well, we know we're going to have one new board member.
Yeah. Well, I'll go first, because I won't be at either one. I'll be out of town on the 3rd in January. My term will expired.
Same for me. We're on vacation that week.
I'm gonna be out in Colorado too, so.
So maybe forget about August 3 and just have our regular board meeting in August?
I think it makes more sense to wait till January.
Okay. So budget hearing, R&R hearing will be September 13th, and Claire, we'll cover that Claire at the end, but our next board meeting will be August. I put 9th, but that's, one of my dates is wrong, because it can't be 3rd and the 9th.
First is the Monday, isn't it?
August 3rd, be the 10th, for the regular board meeting.
That's one of my right on.
August 9th is the second one.
Yeah.
The
Okay.
3rd is our admin meeting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So no meeting on the 3rd. The next meeting we'll have will be on the 9th, the regular board meeting.
No motion on this board budget hearing, just discussion, right? All right, I didn't forget, John. Number 8, the Diversity Inclusion Task Force.
So can we get more information about that?
Sure. Yeah, that was something that Travis kind of started at the high school, so I gave them the night off because they're not under contract in July, so we can have a report on that in August.
Yeah, because maybe it's not, but diversity and inclusion is critical theory language, so I would.
Is that all you wanted? Just on that item, that was quick and easy. Number 9, training and assemblies.
So, is something like Blue Valley puts out, is that something that the administration is willing to do without action from the board? It just lists the training that's gonna happen, who's gonna be offering it, and any to the teachers, and then any assemblies. Yeah, and who's gonna be offering it, just in light of transparency.
Yeah, we've not put that together that early before, but,
And it doesn't have to be, I mean, it could be a month-by-month thing too, I mean, I you know.
might need to be.
Yeah. But I just think bringing it to our attention would be a good thing and would be, you know, sunlight's the best disinfectant.
Okay. I'm just curious, you know, now I'm confused because it wouldn't be unusual for us to do diversity training. But I'm gonna predict you might say,
Well, I mean, I'll look into it, I mean, you
Yeah.
know, cause I mean, it might be okay.
so you need to know the specifics about what it's going to
Right,
cover and what it's
right.
not, type of deal.
Right. Which if you're saying who's gonna do it, you know, they normally have that information, or you can just copy the board on what they send to you.
Need like an outline of what they're gonna cover or something like that, is that what
Right,
you're
yeah,
looking for?
yeah, and they will provide that to our administrators. At least I think they do, don't they?
Sometimes, not always.
But, and you did tell me later that training was something that, that wasn't necessarily being planned on next year, but, you know, when I looked over that training that you had sent me, you know, I mean, that's something, you know, teaching our kids, our first graders about LGBTQ stuff is, I just don't think that's our business. You know, that needs to be done at home if it's gonna be done.
Can we teach our staff?
I mean, I would prefer we didn't make it mandatory. If they wanna learn about it, then be up to them.
Is that what you need there, or?
So I mean, is that something that you guys, that the administration's willing to do?
I'd be curious to see what the board says. This is not a single deal, this is the board deal. I'm curious the board wants to know all of our training materials and be involved in our in-service days and approve all those.
I personally trust our administrative leadership and it hasn't been a problem in the past. I don't see it as a problem going forward.
Well, and just to be clear, I'm not wanting to approve anything, I'm just wanting to know. I just want the information. I mean, if you're saying that, hey, we hired the administrators and we don't wanna know what they're doing, I mean, that's a problem. That's why we have a school board, is so that way we know what the administrators are doing that we hire. So, and I'm not saying they're doing anything, I'm just saying that, you know, it would be a good idea if we knew what they were doing. I mean, we approve curriculum, we look at a lot of different things, you know, I'm not saying we have to approve the training, I'm just saying that as a board, we ought to know what our teachers and our students are being exposed to.
I mean, although, I tend to be pretty optimistic, not necessarily as pessimistic with, you know, language of exposed and things of that nature, but, I mean, I don't think it's a bad idea to know, at least as a board, and I don't think, I'm not a micromanager, and I would not, you know, do that, but, you know, at least in, I don't think it's a bad idea, something to look into. Yeah, just kind of know maybe what's going on. I absolutely trust our administration, and I'm involved with enough of them to kind of be in the loop anyway, but maybe for those who aren't.
Ken, thoughts? Jessica?
Yeah, it might be something that one of us wants to go to.
I am not gonna read all of that, sorry.
Thanks for your honesty.
I have thought that like our board member, director reports, principal director reports are sometimes, some people a little bit more meaty. There's a lot of info to read, and sometimes I have no idea what they're talking about, like, the technology stuff, I'm sorry, Ken, but I don't know what you're talking about. But maybe there are other people that do, and so I do appreciate it. It's just over my head, so there are things that, I'm just gonna be honest, I hate for you guys spending your time and energy on something like that when you should be out fixing computers or something, so I think, I wouldn't want our people spending way too much time putting all that together, but I think it is important to see what's going on. I think that's,
I agree.
So I-
Something that is
I don't know.
consuming and.
Like, maybe just put it in your report, hey, this is, you know, these are the trainings for this month or something. I don't know if that's, I don't know how many trainings there are, so I don't know what we're talking about here. Is like, are there 30 a month, or I don't
Are
know.
you talking
no
about the
idea.
service days or?
I certainly don't wanna start reviewing curriculum, so. What are we doing?
No, I don't really, I trust the administration and everything.
We'll try to put something into Drive.
Good enough?
Well, I mean, I guess, try to is different than we will.
So you wanna review it?
No, I don't wanna review it, I just want to know what's coming.
You wanna say yes or no to it?
No, I mean, not necessarily. I just wanna know what it is. And I think as the board, you know, that's something that we should know. Or at least have the option on.
I have to ask the question, cause I'm the one that puts it together. I need to know how detailed you wanna be, like, are you wanting just an agenda of these are all the topics we're covering, or do you want specifically what's gonna be covered under each topic?
You know, hey, this is what we're covering, this is who's teaching it. You know, I mean, anything that might be controversial, you might add some more notes to, but, I mean, I'm not.
Everything might be
Yeah,
controversial.
what's the definition?
I don't know, hopefully not gonna do too much. So I guess I would put that into a motion that, you know, I would move that the administration lets us know what training the teachers are receiving and who is teaching it.
So, fairly generic, but
Yeah.
it's okay. So is there a second to that?
Sounds like questions.
Okay. Maybe more discussion?
Do you, the way you indicated a second ago, like, there's maybe you put something together at the beginning of the year, and so is it,
Yeah, it's not unusual for Kara to create a document that says what the training will be on this date. It, you know, currently doesn't have specifics as
I
to.
see. I just didn't know how elaborate this thing is going to, you know, like how much time, labor intensive this is.
I mean,
But-
they should be pretty simple,
I mean, does the Kara, does the speaker send you like an outline, this is what, when you hire them, this
It
is what we do?
depends, like, most of the time too, we will just develop what we're wanting to go over with our teachers. If it's specifically say diversity, that we would get a hold of a speaker and they would give us an outline. Potentially, you would think that they would have an outline, but a lot of our training
Just
too is done by
do it.
us,
Yeah.
yes.
So you interested in the outside training or just then, all of it then?
Yeah, but I mean, just, hey, we're teaching diversity, this is the person that's doing it. I mean, I don't think that's really a whole lot to ask, I really don't.
Is that stuff already on a calendar? I mean, that anyone has access to, or?
We have the first few days.
Okay. I mean, it just says in service, and, I mean, not to the general public, but.
I mean, like, you send it out to the teachers, right?
Yes, but I'm not gonna say they know in a month in advance.
So, I mean, why not just copy the board on what you send the teachers out? I mean, I'd be okay with that too,
Like a day, like how far in advance are you wanting? Cause sometimes they get it like that Wednesday and say we have an in-service on Friday.
I mean, just
That way they know what they're doing.
just as soon as, I mean, cause like I said, I'm not looking to approve it, I'm just looking to know what's going on. So I mean, I would be fine with that too, to be copied on the emails that get.
Okay,
sent to the
do you
teachers.
need that as a motion, or you just want that as, just that she'll do it? and you
Yeah,
get
I mean,
that?
if you say you'll do it, then I'll drop my motion.
Just tell, can I do that? Send it to all the board members?
Yes.
Okay, I will send you the copy when I send it to the
Okay.
admin.
Then I,
Okay, all right. Good enough. All right. Number 8, reports, RCEC, Ken.
Sort of, not much going, just the standard, sort of what we approved here tonight, is what we did at RCS. But I do have one thing here that we hired a teacher for Haven Middle School, special ed teacher. So she is a Capers retiree, so she has had a lot of 30 years of experience in teaching in the special ed, so look forward to having that addition to it. That's just that much.
Okay. Board member reports, you want to just, since you got the podium, you got anything else you want?
No.
Okay. John?
All right, well, I will say I appreciate the discussion here today. You know, I do spend a lot of time preparing for these board meetings every month. Most of what I prepare, you know, stays in my head, and that's probably for the best. But, you know, I don't want to take those that I'm trying to disparage anybody or trying to put anybody down or trying to call anybody out, because I know that we are all here because we want what's best for the students. And I think a lot of times we agree, I just don't explain myself very well, or people assume you know, malintention, or you know, we get outside pressure from other groups. But you know, I think discussion is good. I think that you know, I'm very thankful all of you, and even though I'm the one on most of the 6-1 decisions, you know, and I probably will continue to be, I want to do what's best for our kids. I've got a kid, he'll be starting 9th grade next year, and the whole reason I got on the board was because I wanted to be involved in making sure that he received the best education possible. So that's why I'm here. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing, and you know, but I will say that I did not mean to, like I said, a lot of what went on today, you know, it caught me off guard. So that was not my intent. So, but you know, I look forward to having the discussions in future months, so that way we can make sure we're taking care of our students and potentially turn this into a growing district instead of a shrinking district.
Dustin? Jessica?
Just wanted to say that in my dealings with my work, I have had some people come and say, hey, we want to move to Haven because of our sports programs and some other positive things, like our facilities have really improved, and I think the addition of wrestling, I've even had people say they're coming here. I know we have some people coming here because of that, and so I just want to thank our board and Clark's leadership and all of our admin and teachers and great people we have here. I've heard good things about who we have here and working in our district, and that's a lot of the reason why these people are stating without me prompting, because I usually tell them I'm on the school board after that interaction. So just wanted to share that with the board and our audience here today, and I'm proud. That makes me proud so.
It's good to hear those good
Yeah.
stories. Chris?
No, I didn't say anything last month. Honestly, I didn't really think about it, but you know, I didn't know Bryce and Debbie well. I met Bryce on a couple of occasions, and I just certainly know that I am here because of his passing, and just want to say that I'll certainly do my best to. I know that I'm not as smart or wise or as well versed in this stuff, but I'll certainly do my best to just live up to those expectations, and certainly just want to I understand the situation we're in. It's not the normal way a board member is put in a position, and thank you guys for allowing me to do it, and just send the best to Bryce's family, certainly.
Well, yeah, I think we had a lot of good, somewhat heated discussions tonight, but I think it all came out well, so we're all pretty much on the same page there, so really don't have anything else to report myself, so board clerk report, because I always forget you to now. Sorry.
I just wanted to let everybody know November 5th through the 7th is the convention, the annual convention for KASB. So if anyone's interested, when I get more information, I just kind of got a general
Overland
schedule.
Park. Overland Park.
Yeah.
It's in
Overland Park.
August?
November.
Oh gosh, sorry, I
Did I
misheard you.
say August?
I don't know.
No, you didn't.
Okay.
I don't know what I was thinking.
I'm just saying all kinds of things, but no, November 5th through the 7th. I get more, I'll forward them to you via email.
Are they doing in-person training yet, or is it still on?
Well, you have I don't know, I know we have Zoom meetings.
This one's in person.
This one is, but I mean, I
I'll
don't,
be going over on parks with the screen, so.
yeah, I'm not for sure.
I wouldn't.
I just didn't know if you knew right off if any of them were in person.
SDAC had one, last week in person, so I do know that. But I don't know that anybody's gone to, all mine have been Zoom, so.
Okay. Next board meeting, August 9th, we decided that would be the right date, right? At 6 p.m. here. Is there a motion to adjourn? Ken, second. John, all those in favor, right hand. Meeting adjourned. Thank you, guys.